Thank you all for inviting me, basically. Those of you who attended the Cordi might know this talk I'm about to give. Yeah, I hope I get this done in less than 15 minutes, but rather in 10 minutes. What I'm about to present to you is basically our endeavors in the landscape of ontologies regarding catalysis research. If you want to put it that way, when we started in NFDI for CAT, we gathered some of the semantic artifacts, but we noticed quite quickly that most of those ontologies lack the applicability, among others, because they are maybe proprietary and we are not able to fetch the original OWL files, or the ontologies are not really maintained anymore, and so on. Yeah, we set out to do another collection of ontologies that are really useful in catalysis research. And when doing this, we for sure took a look at you at NFDI for Chem and into this really beautiful paper of Philipp Strömert and so on, where you already helped to collect the ontologies for chemical research. So basically, yeah, really strong connected to NFDI for CAT. And we also took a look into the ontologies that were reused to create the metadata for Ing ontology, which is done by the NFDI for Ing consortium. And for sure, we searched Bioportal and the ontology lookup service for other ontologies based on keywords. Yeah, then we started to do a preparatory screening, so to say, for the ontologies. And we listed only ontologies that were at least addressing one field of catalysis research that we defined before, or were at least somehow close to one of those fields of catalysis research, and or contained the top-level ontologies. So for example, the BFO would be listed in here, even though it's not really specific to catalysis research. So with these, we set out for these 30 ontologies that we determined to use for further screening. What we did, I will come to in a second. So you can see here the 30 ontologies we took a closer look to. And from these ontologies, we also have seen quite quickly that some of those could not be really used anymore, rather than saying, okay, they are existing, but they really don't help us in catalysis research. Sorry. So what did we do? We basically collected metadata on the ontologies regarding 6 categories. The first one would be the general information on the ontology and references. Then the modeling and availability, classification regarding the domains of interest. So we split up the catalysis research domain to more subdomains, ontology characteristics, and last but not least, comments. So basically, we aimed to take up metadata of the ontologies in a more structured manner. Yeah, and to show you briefly which fields we took up, I've prepared some slides here. So first, the first 2 parts would be the general information on the ontology. There we listed, among others, the ontology name, some alternative names if there were any, the acronym, which is kind of useful as most of us refer to ontologies by their abbreviations rather than the whole names of the ontologies, creators, and stuff like references, for example, the persistent URL to the ontology file or links to documentation and so on. So this was meant to take up data to keep track of the further ontology development and to handle the ontology files properly, because we did not want to store the ontology files separately on our hard disk, but rather just refer to the URLs from the ontologies. Next would be the step of modeling and availability. Here we listed, among others, the data formats that were provided, because for some Python packages, for example, it's important to have the ontology present as an OWL file rather than an N3 file. Other than that, the Python module would simply not be able to load in the ontology or to work with the ontology. Then some remarks on the license, for example, or which reasoner was working. Here we only tested Fact++ and Hermit. Yeah, because of reasons, basically, we were a bit too lazy to click through all the reasoners available to us in Protégé, so we just tested those 2 and noted the reasonable shortest reasoning time. This means that for each ontology, we listed only if this was done in some millisecond, or in which amount of seconds the reasoning was done. And if it took too long, for example, longer than 6 hours, then we just aborted the reasoning and noted that this was not possible with the reasoners. And also alignment with top-level ontologies and so on. Next part would be the one more important for this talk, I would say. We set up for these domains of catalysis research that were included in our initial proposal from NFDI for CAT and extended it by some more domains of catalysis research. So with this, we had in total, I guess, 15 domains where we classified the ontologies in. And we took a look into each ontology and said, okay, for example, a top-level ontology is contained. For example, in the AFO, in the Algebra Foundation ontology, there we have the basic formal ontology as top-level ontology, and so on and so forth. So we then classified also the ontologies with regards to the subdomains of catalysis research. And we used basically 3 arguments for it. Either the ontology was related in a broader way, related in a narrower way, or enough concepts were contained in the ontology that we deemed that this subclass of catalysis research basically was modeled enough in the ontology that we could say, okay, it's contained in there. And if no concept at all was persistent in the respective ontology, then we also noted that the respective concept is missing in the ontology. Yeah, last but not least, we also added, just for numbers, basically the numbers of axioms, logical axioms, declarations, class count, and so on. Basically the basic metrics you find in any ontology metadata file. And for sure, we left ourselves up for comments if we had some, just to list them there for ourselves for future references, for example, and to put up some notes on whether or not the ontology is well-formed or not that well-formed. So with this, with the first 30 ontologies I've shown you before, we were able to gather the metadata of 23 ontologies, or at least we gathered 23 metadata collections for 23 ontologies, because the other 7 were deemed not really fitting for our needs because of proprietary reasons, or because on a second look, the ontology was not at all as descriptive as we have thought. So and with this, we were also able to create this shiny radar plot that you have seen before on these slides from Oliver. And if you want to, you can also visit our GitHub repo and see all in action there. We try to put and present all the metadata in a markdown way such that you can click through everything. And it looks like this. Basically, this on the left-hand side should be the landing page of the main README file of the ontology of the GitHub repo. And if you click on one of the ontology abbreviations, if you scroll down a bit there, then you should be redirected to another markdown page where you have listed all the metadata that we collected with regards to each ontology. And on top, you can see also such a fancy radar plot showing for the respective ontology the classification that we took for it. So in which domains it is more contained concepts and in which domains it is less contained or even missing. So and in addition to this, we not only listed the metadata as markdown files, but also exported it as JSON files, because this could be of better use for future applications that we don't know yet of. Yeah. With this, we also were able to do some kind of basic mapping, I would say, or preliminary mapping by comparing IRIs, labels, preferred labels, alt labels, and names of the ontology classes with using already 2, that's a Python package for loading in ontologies. And long story short, we noticed that we found more mappings than BioPortal would find, but this might mostly be due because BioPortal does not use the most actual versions of the ontologies, and we are using the direct URLs to the ontology file, so we're able to use the most actual version of the ontology file. Yeah, these mappings we did for all sort of combinations of in total 19 ontologies. You can find this also on the GitHub page and click on each of these numbers here. Then you will be redirected on the to the list of the mappings and why the mapping was chosen. So to summarize this briefly, I see I don't have much time left. We did an ontology metadata collection for our catalysis research domains and provided this as a GitHub repo for you to take a look through. And basically, the approach we used was agnostic to the domain of knowledge. Only thing you would have to change in order to apply to your domain of knowledge would be to change these classifications, basically, for your subdomain, and to do the classification with regards to these subdomains. next steps would not only involve to do some bug fixing and doing GitHub issues or resolving GitHub issues, but also maybe taking a look more into this method of automated mapping between ontology classes, because these mappings are done automatically, so we have not yet had that much time to take a look in how precise these mappings are, and for the whole course of homonyms and synonyms and so on are not yet taken account of. With this, I want to thank you and to invite you to join us at the ADCR in Frankfurt on the 3rd of November. Here are 2 QR codes where you can register yourself to participate. And we have a workshop there called Exploring the Ontology Landscape for Catalysis Research Data. And I want to invite you to also, if you have something to present there, please come and present. And also in the minutes there should be some links that will direct you to the landing page of this conference. Thank you.